Namaste, good morning. We're just having a talk again this morning on discussing a comment that was made that the desire for liberation, is right up there with the desire for alcohol or sex, that one shouldn't have any desires. Well, if there's no desire for realization, one's not even going to begin a path. You're going to be stuck in absolute ignorance. That's what it is. If there's no desire for realization, and Buddha had a desire for realization, he wanted to get out of the suffering. And he was determined to do what was needed to get out of the suffering. And that's how one begins the path. So if you're sitting there saying, and you've taken some verse and twisted it out of the meaning, what it is, yes, there are no desires after realization. There is no desire. Before that, if you don't have the desire to get out of suffering, you're not going to hold to a path. It's that simple. There's a beneficial desire. And then there's chasing alcohol and drugs and sex that keeps you suffering bound. So again, people hear something, they take it out of context and twist it around in their minds into something 180 degrees away from what's beneficial. And they don't understand what's dispassion. Not to have the desire. Again, dispassion means that one is done and not wanting to chase after the things of the world. Realization is not something of the world. Be in the world but not of it. One is going after getting off the wheel of karma, to get out of the suffering. So again, for Pete's sakes, people, we're trying to give you what's beneficial. Quit trying to read, and this is why it says a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. You get a little something, you've heard a little something, and you twist it into something unrecognizable and come back and think you're really going to give me a zinger. Well, you shouldn't have any desire. Desire is a horrible thing. No, the desire for realization keeps one that energy to go forward and do what's needed to get out of the suffering. It's a benefit. Okay? So again, people hear things, they misconstrue it, turn it into something what's not being said, and become their own worst enemies. Yet again, any guru, any sage, any enlightened being had the desire to be out of suffering. If there was no desire to be out of suffering, they'd be caught up in the drama. There would be no beginning of a search. Nothing to sustain a search. So let's understand the desire for realization, the desire to be out of suffering off the wheel of karma, gives the energy to say, you know what, I'm turning my back on the rest of it. I'm turning my back on the rest of it. I don't want the band-aids of sex. I don't want the band-aids and the distractions of these other things, because they are not going to bring liberation. My desire is to get out of suffering, not to create something and to hold to something that's only going to bring more suffering in the end. So there is beneficial desire, and there is that ignorance desire. Desires of ignorance. Okay? So pick something beneficial. That's all. So I'm I think that's all that needs to be said on that. There's not much more that could be said on that subject. That yes, there's nothing wrong with the desire to be liberated, because that's the desire to finally begin to take a spiritual path and walk it in earnest. Okay? So if you don't have the desire for realization, then you're going to just stay in the bars, drinking your beers and chasing sex and remain in ignorance the rest of your life. That's it. So if you think that that's a beneficial thing, be my guest. Remain in ignorance. Say that, oh, I shouldn't have any desire. I shouldn't want to be liberated. Okay, then don't want to be liberated. Remain in ignorance the next, 1,000 more lifetimes. Remain in ignorance. That's fine. That's fine. But don't ever say that the desire for liberation, one shouldn't have any desire of any nature of that type. Any desire is bad. No, come on. Even logically, that doesn't make any kind of sense. One wishes for the good things. One puts their hope in that which is beneficial. That's where one puts their focus, not on the things which cause more suffering. So if you're going to have any desire, have a desire for liberation, because that can aid you to go forward and let go of the things that are not beneficial. And that's all. Namaste.